In this video, we're going to be talking about the roles of businesses in society. To start off, I'll be talking about the role of a stakeholder in a business. A stakeholder is someone with a particular interest in a business. They're individuals, groups, or organisations that are affected by the activity of a business. For example, owners, managers, workers, customers, suppliers, and the local community. Now, the influence of these stakeholders is, for example, owners will have a majority say in the aim of the business and will also make most of the decisions. Customers, they're key to the success of a business. If they're ignored, then the business faces losing them. Stakeholder objectives, however, can sometimes conflict. For example, if owners want high profits, they may not necessarily want high wages for staff, which will annoy and frustrate staff, maybe causing them to leave. If a business wants to move overseas, it could reduce the cost of staffing and will benefit the owners, but it will anger existing employees who will lose their jobs.
In the dealing with crisis and the crisis in the economy section MDP, there's two sections that were covered. First of all, you need to consider what is a crisis. Defined in the Oxford Dictionary, a crisis is a time of intense difficulty or danger, and a time in which difficult and important decisions must be made. The two different sections are the management of crisis and the crisis of management. The difference is that in the management of crisis, people deal and make decisions, whereas the crisis of management is where management make poor decisions and face difficulties. These difficulties are personified in the 2008 financial crisis, in which banks were giving out mortgages which were built on soft foundations, and the whole economy was built on top of that, and it crumbled, and that led to financial institutions falling apart. This kind of intertwines with the problem of the management of a crisis, which is how people deal with these decisions and the ethics and the morality of these decisions which were made. So that's what was covered in the dealing with crisis and the crisis of management section and dealing with the economy.
Today I'll be talking about disruptive technology. A disruptive technology is one that displaces an established technology and shakes up an industry, or it can be a groundbreaking product that creates a completely new industry. Disruptive technology lacks refinement and often has performance problems because it is new and it appeals to only a limited audience and may not yet have a proven practical application. The PC was an example of disruptive technology. This changed the way we work and communicate, and it was very disruptive due to the fact that you needed a new skill set to operate it, which left many workers very confused and led to them having to spend a whole lot of time getting used to working the machines. Another example of disruptive technology, email. It transformed the way we communicated by displacing letter writing and disrupting the postal and greeting card industries, as these tasks could now be performed instantly anywhere in the world with no direct costs.
Globalisation refers to the elimination of borders and barriers and the process of free movement of finance, knowledge and capital between countries. Ideally, market liberalism should be seen as highly productive as it raises living standards worldwide and favours innovation. During the 1980s and 90s, the prospect of globalisation was nothing but positive. The Cold War had ended, markets were free, and developing countries were now integrated into these global markets, thus creating wider markets for trade and improved access to technology. We must also be realistic and accept that it may come with some negative aspects also. Globalisation operates mostly in the interests of the richest countries, which continue to dominate trade at the expense of developing ones. Critics argue that it creates inequalities, loss of jobs and environmental degradation. Companies are able to exploit the resources of developing ones and their workers for a fraction of the price, putting many people out of jobs and leaving others with a lack of income because of scarce resources. For globalisation to work fairly, it is important that companies always act ethically.
The issue of ethics in business is important and ever increasing in the modern business world. More and more businesses are beginning to model themselves based on their ethical behaviour, and it is becoming a big issue to customers as well. Examples of ethical behaviour include actions such as fair wages and working hours for all employees, but also wider issues involving helping the government and local communities. Ethical behaviour shows businesses are willing to go above and beyond the minimum requirements. This appeals to many customers. However, the financial cost of acting in an ethical way can often persuade businesses to act otherwise, to try and make themselves as efficient as possible, to help beat their competitors. Primark is an example of a business that shows very little regard for their ethical behaviour. due to the way they treat their workers in third world countries by offering them very little pay for very long hours of work in poor conditions. Acting in this way may be cost effective, but does risk the bad publicity and the reputation of the company being tarnished.
Corporate social responsibility, or CSR, is when businesses actively practice initiatives that benefit society. As the issue of ethics within the business world is becoming increasingly important in the eyes of both consumers and potential business partners, it's important for organisations to practice good CSR in order to optimise their performance. The question of whether all businesses are expected and rewarded for ethical behaviour in modern society is often raised. It doesn't necessarily have a right or wrong answer, however, I believe that businesses are both expected and rewarded for good CSR. If companies perform CSR in the correct manner, then they will benefit from it. Simple as that. An example of this is Google's Science Buddies, which is a non-profit program giving children from all backgrounds a chance to create their own new ideas. It allows students to pick a science project that interests them, enabling them to learn while having fun at the same time. This helps Google improve their brand image, as customers will now view them as a company that cares about the minds of our future. However, some companies can benefit from disregarding ethical behaviour, such as Volkswagen, with their emission scandal. While the amount of emissions their cars produced was being tested, they fitted a device in order to produce the results they needed to pass the test. When the cars were placed on the road, the device was removed and it was found that they were producing 40 times the legal nitrogen oxide limit in the US. Volkswagen benefited from this, though, through the sales they received from customers who thought they were purchasing a more efficient car. Despite this benefit, in the end, they are hindered because customers will now view them as a selfish, untrustworthy company.